Hey friends, this is the Miss Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead with what's going on. Yesterday, if you noticed, I didn't answer a lot of comments or questions. I was really crippled down with a fibromyalgia attack yesterday, and I spent half the day in bed and the other half in a recliner. And the only two chores I did yesterday during the entire day was unload and load the dishwasher and put my dogs in and out when they had to go to the bathroom. That was all I was capable of. So I have printed off some questions that I just don't have the hands to type the answers to today. And I'll answer them here. Okay, just because today is better than yesterday, but I'm not fully recovered yet. Marianne Anderson asked, can you compare the merits of dehydrating to those of canning? How do you decide which method of preservation to use? How I decide is trial and error. I have canned, for instance, carrots. I have canned carrots, a bushel of carrots, and then ended up with canned carrots for like 2 years, because when you're making a soup or a stew, unless you're going to add it in last, canned goods are going to end up being mushy in your soup or stew. And because I use a lot of carrots in soup, stews, and some casseroles, I prefer to dehydrate them. Carrots is not something we eat as a side dish unless I'm roasting it whole in with, say, a roast in the roasting pan. So carrots is one thing I normally dehydrate, because a bushel of carrots gives you a lot of jars, or it gives you 4 or 5 quarts of dehydrated carrots, which takes up a lot less shelf space. People have been asking about the celery. When I can celery, what is it like? Is it retain its crunch? No, it doesn't retain its crunch. It retains its shape, but it's soft. It's not crunchy like raw celery because it's cooked. It's been canned. However, when it comes to celery, I like to both dehydrate and can, because there's sometimes when you're just, I will throw a stew together out of the pantry that will take me 15 minutes to prepare, because I have canned meat and broth, I have canned celery, I have fresh onions, and sometimes canned potatoes. And you can just drain off all the juice, mix that up into a gravy and pour it over, and boom, you've got a stew like that. But again, for the most part, most of my celery is dehydrated for the same reason as the carrots. A lot of soups, a lot of stews and casseroles in the wintertime. Okay, so that was from Marianne Anderson. In a Pickle said, I've never seen such wide pasta. I'm interested to know how it tastes. The wide pasta that I used in Howie's birthday lasagna on the weekend, it's fresh pasta. So it's doughy, it's not crunchy, and you don't have to boil it. However, I used some other dehydrated ingredients, so I would recommend, if you're going to use an oven-ready pasta, whether it's dry pasta or fresh doughy pasta, add extra liquid, or it's going to take longer to cook. The liquid, it still has to be cooked in the lasagna. It just means it's being cooked in the oven, not pre-boiled first. It was delicious. It was really delicious, and I liked the way it came out. So one of these days, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to make some and then wrap it in between layers of parchment and freeze it just like that, because that was really good. That worked out really well. But you need extra liquid. Okay. Salabrina Smith 23. I'm getting confused as to what can be water bath canned and what needs to be pressure canned. Why don't these need to be pressure canned? And she's talking about my ginger pears. Okay. There are 3 things that determine whether you can, there are several things that determine what can be pressure canned and what can be boil bath canned. All meat and low acid fruits and vegetables need to be pressure can. If you go by the USDA or Health Canada, everything should be pressure canned. Okay? But there are 3 rules of thumb when it comes to boil bath canning your fruits. Okay? I wouldn't recommend like boil bath canning beans or anything like that. Pressure can. But when it comes to doing things like apples, pears, any kind of fruit like that, the low acidity is a factor. But when it comes to boil bath canning, remember these 3 ingredients: vinegar, salt, and or sugar. Those 3 things are major preservatives. So for instance, if you're doing pickles, if you're doing pickles, and whether it's a sweet pickle or a sour pickle, it doesn't matter. Both have either sugar or vinegar and salt. That means they are going to be preserved as long as you boil bath can them. Okay? Because they have a high quantity of a preservation ingredient like salt, vinegar, or sugar. So canned pears, canned apples, any kind of canned fruit that you're doing in a syrup, you can boil bath can because sugar is a preservative. However, and some people have asked, I have to say this, some people have asked, can you do it in honey? I don't recommend it. Although honey is wonderful and it is natural, it doesn't have the same preservation properties. It has antimicrobials in it and stuff like that. But if you want to cut down the sugar and use honey, do half and half. Okay? So if you're going to make a syrup of simple syrup of 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar, you can do 1 cup water, 1/2 cup honey, 1/2 cup sugar. Okay? That's the only thing you got it, but you got to have the sugar in there. All right? I answered the crispy crunchy, not crispy crunchy celery. Oh, Hillflower 1776. What about dehydrating and then making the celery into celery powder or celery salt? A real space saver. I just wish I knew the health info on doing it this way. Well, I don't see why you can't do it that way. I've done it with tomatoes. So if you want to dehydrate your celery and turn it into celery powder, make sure you blanch your celery really, you give it a good blanching, because you want all those pores open, because celery, if it is dehydrated without blanching, becomes very, very tough and woody. So blanch it, and then, grind up the powder and then gradually mix in salt. When you have your powder, your celery all ground into powder, mix in some salt and give it a taste test. If it tastes like celery salt, great. If it doesn't and you need more salt, great, fine. But always start with less salt than you think you need, because once you put the salt in, you can't take it out. And Lady Gun 55. Bev, can you can okra or does it need to be dehydrated, please, or both? Honey, I'm from Canada. I just in the last 2 years have found out what okra looks like, but I have never touched it, tasted it, or physically seen it with my own eyes. I don't know anything about okra. I'm really, really sorry. And one more question. Oh, no, there's a couple. Mark Neff wants to know, I noticed a lot of your off-brand name is Kirkland. Who are they and where are they from? Kirkland is a Costco house brand. Just like if you go to, I don't know, I'm Canadian, so if you go to, say, Loblaws, it's Our Compliments, or, it's just the house brand for Costco, and as far as I know, they are USA. And May Devone, what time does Papa leave home for work, and what time do you officially start your day? You are such a busy bee. No, I'm not. I have to be very, very careful. I have to plan my days very, very carefully. Like this weekend, my fibromyalgia attack was due to weather and me, making lasagnas and then trying a new cake recipe that I just kind of designed for Howie's birthday, and then all of a sudden I crashed, So I get up, in no word of a lie, I do get up at 4:45 every morning. I make Papa's breakfast. Today it was poached eggs on toast. And then I put together his lunch, which was frozen leftover stuffed cheesesteak, some blueberry yogurt, a banana, and a piece of his birthday cake. And he leaves for work at about 5:45. And then I do what I got to do, like I'm doing right now. It is now 6:39 a.m. And then I'm going to go back to bed because I don't sleep. Aside from the fibromyalgia and the arthritis, I'm also an insomniac. So, and contrary to popular opinion, insomnia doesn't mean you don't sleep. Insomnia, in most cases, means that you have a very difficult time getting restorative sleep for large lengths of time. The best I can normally do, the very best, if I get a really good night's sleep, it's because I slept 4 hours straight without interruption, without even rolling over. That's a really good stretch of sleep for me. But so I have to stagger my sleep so that I get enough sleep to, help my body get through fibromyalgia and arthritis and just to do the things I need to do every day. So when he goes to work, I go back to bed and I sleep for another 3 hours because normally I sleep for about 3 hours in the night. Okay, this is the Mrs. Wolfe from Our Half Acre Homestead saying I hope I answered some of your questions for today. Take care. Bye-bye.